And Astral here,
Yes.
Sweattick here,
Yes.
Augustine here. Okay. We do not have an agenda for today. So we're just going to kind of go in order of the trustees after we let the department head speak, if that's okay with you. That's how I had done it in the past. So that's what I'm familiar with. Is that all right?
Sounds good to me.
Very good.
I'm here. Okay. So a couple things I want to be looking to request on Tuesday. We need to replace our ice rescue suits, the cold water exposure suits. They date back to Bill Horton era. They do have holes in them, so when the guys were in the water last week, they were getting nice cold leaks into the suits. Each suit is $695 through Land Navigation. Samsol Supply, which is out of Cleveland, had them for $775. Dive Rescue International had them for $782, and Fire Supply had them for $1189. So I'm going to be getting two of them, and then plus $25 shipping through Landfall Navigation. And then the association will be purchasing two more, so we can have two on each ambulance.
And so what was the cost from landfall?
$695 times two. So what is that?
$695 each.
$13.90.
$13.90 plus $25 shipping.
And how many do you currently have right now?
Two.
You just have two.
Yeah.
So we're going to replace
One on
those
each
two.
squad. Yeah, we'll have two on each squad, because if one's going in the water, we have to have one backed up, ready to go. And in the event that one squad's out, we have the other squads available to respond to ice rescue, because time is of the essence.
And they are one size fits most.
Yeah, they go up to like 300. They go from, they go from 110 to 330 pounds and 4'11" to 6'7" in sizing. So they cover pretty much everybody on the department.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Big Dave's a big guy, just tall. He's the only one, but
So you got the three bids and everything?
I went
Just make sure you have enough money in there when you make the motion for cover shipping and handling, whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna reach out and confirm that it's just $25 for the flat rate for both suits. That's what it came up, so I'll confirm with that.
Is there a warranty on any of them also then, or
I don't know if there is a warranty. I'll look into
for
it.
defects, but
I'll ask about that. Next is, since the command pickup truck is finally capped with the cap is put on, we had held off on buying warning lights for the rear of the cap because we didn't know how the cap was going to fit with the compartments and all that. So I'm going to be looking to order, 6 LED warning lights to put on the cap. They're $54.99 a piece, so it'll be $329.94 plus approximately $14.71 shipping from Strobes and More, who we purchased all our emergency lights from previously for that truck, and then my members, while they're on shift, will install them to save costs on the installation.
Very good.
Then yesterday they announced it. We have not got the formal announcement via email yet, but we received $12,827.66 for the Marks Radio Grant, or we will be receiving it.
Can you give us that number one more time?
Yes, $12,827.66. It was about half of what I applied for the grant. It covers more radios, so we'll be able to buy approximately 2 radios and a couple extra batteries, because our batteries are aging out from the radios that we got from the first round when Chief Potts was here. But that will be throughout the spring once they formally announce it, and it's a reimbursement grant.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I reached out to Brian Richter. I have not heard anything back from the bid contract that I sent him to review for our CBAs through the FEMA grants. He said what I sent him was a very good start, and he was just going to put in the formal bid legal wording that he needed to do. So hopefully I hear something soon, and then once I do, we'll bring it and go to bid for our air packs. It was for around $159,000 is what that total grant was awarded through FEMA.
And you said he's had that for a little bit
He's
now.
had
He's
that
just kind of backed
I
up.
think like the 22nd December, I was hoping to have it ready by the 18th, the last meeting, but he didn't think he would just because of, he had court cases coming up, the week after the New Year. So I reached out, I have not heard anything today from him, but.
So hopefully we'll have something for next
Something
Tuesday.
soon, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
That's all I have for now.
Congratulations on the grant.
Thank you.
Well done, Chief.
Chief, what happened with that donation?
I have reached out, so I made contact with the resident. She lives in Colorado. She sent it as a cashier's check to the association. So the association had nothing with her name on it because it was apparently in a different relative's name donated to in response to Ed Vandeshire, who was on her department years ago. So the association is contacted the bank to go through their checks to physically see that we got her cashier's check. But that was through the association, so I reached out to Gus, who's the president, to investigate into it.
Is there a reason they were being unresponsive?
So she sent me the email, and I found her email in my spam a week ago. I just found it that she had sent a week ago. So that's how we missed it. Her
Okay.
email, for some reason, which was a Gmail, went right to spam.
Okay.
And I don't typically check my spam often, so that's how I missed her response. So I talked to her and apologized and all that. I told her I'd be in contact pretty early this week to let her know what the status is.
All right. Thanks for following up on
Not
that.
a problem.
I had a resident email that went to spam that I didn't know was there either, so I'm going to start checking my
Yeah,
spam
that's what
folder
I'm
more
starting to do.
regularly. Mhm.
One more thing, when you're putting together your records, do you have any kind of a breakdown in the response time based on per mile as opposed to, our average time for every response is X number of minutes? I'd like to know what your response time is per mile. So how many miles you've gone on runs versus how long each of those responses were. That should be something you should be able to extrapolate from the numbers you already
I'll
have.
look into that because it's broken down by the zones. We would have to go specifically by address. We'd almost have to do an address by address and break it down there.
Yeah, just take a look. If it's something you can do, I'd be interested in that.
I'll
Okay.
check on that, but I'm not sure.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else for Chief Rosenbaugh? All right, Chief Sutner, you are up.
The main thing I would.
I'm sorry, Chief Sutner. Can we get that microphone closer to you and start talking?
Is that better?
Keep talking. Yes, that's much better. Thank you so much.
Okay. We received an anonymous donation of $50,000 towards the police department building project. Given that project is on hold, and I'm going to make an assumption it probably will be for, if not all of this year, into next year. So that being said, we have $41,000 in that account. We spent $9,000 to do the geotech survey for the building and the site survey. So we have $41,000 sitting, from that donation. And I'd like to have some conversation with the board as to how to best use some of those funds, probably now versus waiting. One of the projects we discussed to go along with the addition was to put in a keyless lock system throughout the building. Right now we have keys. We have all kinds of keys. Keys for this door, keys for that door. The two main entrances on the north side of the building and through the front lobby have keyless entry pads. They're not the same system, and they're both old. So I would like, I don't want to spend a lot of time looking into quotes to do the whole building in a keyless system or any of the other things that I'll put before you without, you guys saying, it's a possibility. So I would like to look into taking some of that money and completely putting in a keyless entry system for all the interior doors, the entrance doors for the department, because that will just carry over into the new addition at some point. Number one. I have, at no point do I have any costs for that right now. It would entail having, locksmiths and companies that do that come in and give us some quotes, which is easy enough done. But I would like to look at using some of those funds for that. The carpet in the building is the original carpet. We've talked about putting in new carpet, maybe instead of having carpet in the squad room area, turn that into more of a usable floor surface versus carpet, and the guys and gals tracking in the weather and all of that. So I would like to look at redoing the carpet and the flooring in the squad room with some of those funds. The paint in the building's about 8 to 10 years old, I believe, in that neighborhood. So that's not a critical issue, but it may be something to consider as well, to give the interior of the building kind of a facelift with some carpet and some paint, and to do the lock systems. So those were my thoughts on, that money that's available for that from the donation. And
I just pulled up the letter that came with that donation, and it specifically says, and I just thought this while we were sitting here, what was the specific language to that letter? This is to assist in the construction of the new police building in Hinckley Township. So I wonder if these are valid expenditures based on the donation, just as we're having that conversation here.
I would say probably not. Well, we talked about probably not, but we did talk about, as part of that project, that we were going to renovate the current building.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that it's completely removed, but we also, we could reach out to our donor and ask him what he thinks.
That's what I was thinking.
And we do need to reach out to him and thank him anyway.
I did.
If it was,
Okay.
if,
Well, I
if
tend to do the same, but
information was identified I would rather see you earmark that and hold it, unless you can contact them for an approval to use it in the manner that you want.
sure.
Otherwise, I would earmark it and find the funding somewhere else.
I just, he was very generous with his donation, and, we've put this project on hold because I believe, with all good intentions, we thought we would be moving along with this project at this point in time, and we're not. And I don't want him to be upset with us that we're not. And what he donated to us is just sitting in a bank account. So either way, I think we need to explain to him, where we're at and why we're doing what we're doing for very good reasons. And if he is okay with us doing a little bit of facelifts and making some improvements, great. If he'd prefer us to hold it, that's fine too. It's perfectly okay.
I will reach out to the donor and see what his thoughts are.
Okay. So, all
But
right.
we did send a thank you letter from the trustee board.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. So that's where I'm at with those, just some thoughts on that. So
They're all good thoughts.
we'll wait till we hear back from him, and then we can have further discussion as to what all that looks like. So I just don't want to spend a lot of time on something that may or may not happen
Sure.
at this point.
I think
So-
we should look into the keyless lock system regardless.
Well, Trustee Burns and Schulte and I had long conversation several years ago about doing the entire township in that manner. This building, the police building, because every time somebody leaves, I have to get all their keys back from them. We have to then go change the keypad codes at the doors. And it would just be so much easier to just go on the computer and activate a fob or a card and deactivate somebody or.
Plus, then you have a record who acted.
Absolutely. Everything is completely, we know when people are coming and going all the time.
That was my only question about it. With, if you do the keypad, could it be something that everybody gets their own unique
Yes.
code
Well,
so that you can just eliminate it when?
well, that's the nice thing about either the door, a fob or a pass card
Mhm.
is they're unique to the user. So I can go on and do an audit, know what time date and time that anybody's coming through the building.
Mhm.
So if some,
I think that's a great idea if we're able to do it.
You know,
And the Prax cards are nice. I mean, you can even use them as an ID then, you know.
Sure. You know, it's going to be a little costly because the building, the interior doors are not wired for that, and they will have to be. But with the drop-in ceiling, it shouldn't be all that difficult to do. So.
I was actually going to talk to the trustees about doing that here at our front door. You know, we have zoning commission, BZA coming in, they're interrupting the police to get the door unlocked. Oftentimes people renting the facility, same issue. You know, somebody's got to let them into the building to get into this room. And so that door is in desperate need of something anyway. It's letting a good draft.
Well, and along those lines, if somebody rents this room, then Suzanne can give them a card to get in that's specific for their date and time. And we don't have to hope the police department's not on a call to come let them in or close up for them. You can give them access to this room and this room only through that door. You know, then it expires and the whole bit. It makes things a little more efficient for everyone.
Right.
I agree. I can definitely see the benefit to it. I think it's a great idea. Do we have any idea of a ballpark of what something like that?
I do not. And I wouldn't even want to try to start guessing at this point because I could sit here and go, well, for the police department and all the interior doors and doing town hall, you know, 20,000.
Right.
I might be spot on or completely out of the ballpark.
Well, I would assume it would be beneficial to do them all at the same time. It'd probably be cheaper the more you buy.
Yes. So, I mean, that may be something you want to incorporate at the service department. I don't know what system you have, but it may be something you just want to look at township wide. So.
Thank you, Chief.
But when we have those conversations and we have a better direction, we'll move forward then.
Perfect.
I've got a couple training items I'm looking into that actually came in this morning via fax with regards to some leadership training and citizen encounter training that's taking place somewhat locally over in Paynesville. And then Canton Police is hosting a background investigations for police applicants class that's 2 days in March that I would like to send someone. So I will get some more information together on all of that by next Tuesday for you.
And we're seeing trainings in person without any issue.
Yeah, everything's kind of moving back to normal for us. So
Great.
at this point in time, we do have continuing education mandates for 2022 through the state of Ohio. Most of that will take place virtually through the state attorney general system with OPATA. We won't be sending people away for that. But we do get some reimbursement money for that as well. So I'm not sure how much that'll be at this time, but there should be a check coming within the next couple of months.
Very good.
So Trustee Swedick, in regards to your email on our drug screening, I have all that information put together for you. It's a pretty simple system. Quarterly, at the beginning of each quarter, we are part of a random pool. And if somebody gets pulled, I send them to Medina Hospital for a drug screen.
Now, basically, I'm looking for the point of contact.
Yep, I've got all that for you.
Okay.
And then you can set that all up. It's through LabCorp is who the company is that handles it for us. And then the screens are done at Medina Hospital Occupational Office. So I apologize for the timeliness in getting back to you from your email last week, but I
know you were a little busy.
Thank God it's over. So I will have that to you, in an email before the day is over. They're very, very easy to work with. Adding people, taking people off the list. It's as simple as an email. So, and the last thing I have is for our wonderful fiscal officer.
Oh boy.
In 1992,
Sorry.
in the big move over the weekend, my wife found this book from 1992. And
is
in
there
here,
a picture in there?
there's pictures in here
Holy
of
crap.
the Hinckley Police Department and our wonderful fiscal officer doing all kinds of cool stuff with the little kids at Hinckley Elementary School.
Yeah, see, I had a life before all
I know everyone in this room knows what
I was-
Polaroids are.
Oh,
But there's Polaroids. And Sharon found this and
Oh, how
I
fun.
heard her downstairs laughing. I'm like, I'm really not in the mood to laugh right now. She goes, oh my God, you've got to see this. So there's Chief Yates with the kids, and Martha, I'm going to give this to you. Here's
isn't that
pictures of
fun?
Martha with the little kids in their tricycles. And the interesting thing I thought, really quick, and I won't delay our time, but and it goes back to how people in this community just stay so engaged over the years. But the design for the Highland Safety Week logo was done by none other than Carl Castle Jr.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
it was just interesting to read this. And it's kind of funny. They had just gotten their new little tricycles, and Mr. Weiss that lives on Stony Hill donated the safety belts for the tricycles. And now we were just part of getting the tricycles for the new next safety town.
Yeah.
So that are still back here because they haven't had one in 2 years. But so Martha, I will give this
Well,
to
thank you. My
it is
goodness.
for you.
I think this
So-
was the first year, if I'm not trying, it might have been, yeah,
First edition, is it
Right.
signed?
Yeah.
yeah, because it was a very new thing.
Yeah, that's been 30 years ago.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
So it was kind of funny, the things you find when you're moving.
Oh, yeah, there's a really old picture. Where was it? John Huff.
1992.
John Huff. I remember. Gosh.
So you gotta look in there and go, this guy owes me money, you know?
Yeah.
These kids, I remember.
Yeah, Chief Yates was in there. and
Yeah.
That was at Hinckley Elementary School.
That's great.
Yeah, it was, John Huff was just starting in Schmidt, Brian Schmidt.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yep,
not
then before he
mistaken.
went to Brunswick, yeah.
Yeah, before he went to Brunswick.
Wow. Well, it's better to be with you than anyone else, for sure.
I'm glad she took a moment to look through it and not throw it away.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that was fun, though. The kids were fun.
That's awesome. Who would like to go next? Suzanne, Tom?
Wow.
Tom.
Well, our zoning department has
Thank you, Chiefs.
something new, which is not unusual. But Highland School Board has sent us an application for a map change for the
Thank you.
former
That's
elementary
fun.
school over here on Center Road. We just received that. And the package isn't quite complete, but Suzanne and I are going to go back to the school board and get everything we need. And then we'll present it to the zoning commission. And what they're requesting right now, it's R1 where the school sits. And they'll be requesting to go to our B2 Hinckley Township Center zoning. And the reason they gave for that was that the school board has a fiduciary duty to sell that land, and they feel it'll bring a better price if it's B2 because the options for somebody buying it, their options putting something there is much greater than if it's R1. And of course, the other thing mentioned, and I agree with this, it'll increase the size of our downtown and give us a little more diversity. So right now, like I say, we just printed it out this morning, but we're going to get a package together and forward it to the zoning commission, and their recommendation will come to the trustees down the road here somewhere. And so that's the thing, the new thing we're working on today.
Very good. Thank you. Nothing else exciting in zoning?
Well, you know, our other
Because
projects.
I like the quietness of zoning.
Well, it's for the first time in quite a long time, we're not getting new permits weekly, you know. I think the weather has a lot to do with that. Drug Mart is due back to the zoning commission for their final site plan review, and they have told us they're not coming in February. So we don't know when they'll come in for, I said final primary site plan, is a preliminary site plan review. And so I don't know if that'll be March As soon as we find out, we'll let you know.
Is that something that will go to the planning commission,
Yeah, yes,
the county planning commission?
yeah, it comes to us and them, yeah.
That's what I thought. Very good.
So we're just waiting for outside forces to move us.
Very good. Thank you very much for that. Suzanne?
Oh, yeah,
She rose her hand.
tomorrow or Wednesday night, the Board of Zoning Appeals will be meeting for 2 public hearings. One is a variance request for a side yard setback, and the other is for the reserve at Pine Valley. Their front subdivision sign needs they're requesting a variance for a side yard setback on that. So that will be held Wednesday. At 7 p.m.
Very good. Thank you for that, Suzanne.
And then I'll just continue.
I was just going to say, let's.
My zoning.
Perfect.
So we are working on reviewing our fee schedule. And it was something that we kind of started back in October, November of last year. And with the change of trustees, Chris Kalina had said, let's just wait till after the first of the year. So Tom and I will review and provide our recommendations for the trustees to review, and then we'll have to put it to vote and come up with an effective date. I looked at some other adjacent townships to see where we're at in line with them, and if we're in the same area of fee structures or we're high or low.
Okay.
Of course, we're all managing different levels of service in terms of budget expenses, et cetera. So we'll keep that into consideration.
Thank you.
I am working on the third quarter report for the zoning activity, and hopefully we'll also get through the fourth quarter for next trustee meeting. Then we'll ask respectively that Trustee Augustine presents the reports on my behalf.
Absolutely.
Okay, very good.
Very good. Anything else, Suzanne?
That's all I had for zoning. Had posted the vacancies on the website
Yes.
for instruction on Monday, the 24th. So that
Thank you for
posting is-
doing that. And I already saw that I've made an error in it, so we will be changing it, which I emailed you this morning. And I'll speak to that once it's my turn to chat. Anything else?
Do you want me to just continue on
We
with?
may as well. You've got the floor.
Okay. Under administration, building and parks, I don't know if Trustee Asherle wants to speak about the office assistant position now, or if you want to wait till it's your turn.
Let's go for it. Okay, so Suzanne and I were talking about the position last week, and she had some concerns with it, that adding the recording secretary into that, she was concerned there would not be enough hours left in the week to actually assist her, because Chris was so busy with the Kimball, and Suzanne, I didn't write everything down on my notes here, but Chris, she was very, very busy doing her day-to-day activities, that there was sometimes not enough hours to support you with what you needed. And your concern with adding into that position a recording secretary could be adding every other week an additional 5 hours into that. So we talked about it a couple of times, and I told Suzanne I really wanted to talk about it here while we could all have the open dialogue about it. Suzanne feels that it could work and help. And Martha, you're going to have to let us know if we can do this or not. If we increase the max hours to 30 when needed. And let me also back it up by saying we did do the average hours of Chris Medwid's, and her average hours were.
Well, no, I sent Suzanne the report, so I know
Oh,
what
okay.
Chris's hours were.
Having open dialogue, so.
Yeah,
I don't know what her.
I can give them to you guys.
Okay.
Too. But go ahead. I'm sorry, Monique.
Her average was 20 and a half hours per week. So with Suzanne's concern is this could increase, by another 5 hours a week doing the recording secretary, that could take us over the 25 hours. So the question would be, can we increase the max hours to 30 or 28, something like that? And with 30 hours, if we put that, would that put them at full time? I thought 32 hours a week was full time.
Well, we have a total number of hours worked for an annual. So that is what we would have to maintain. It's not the weekly.
Okay.
The other thing is, I'll be honest, sitting in the work session and doing the minutes isn't going to take 5 hours, because these minutes are not meeting minutes. They're just going to be how I would require them to be done is just a basic. Chief Sentner discussed keyless locks. He will look into pricing and contact the benefactor. That's it. We're not going into any detail. We're just providing enough so people can understand if there's a topic that they want to go to a meeting about, they'll be able to. We'll get into this conversation a little more when we look at the permanent appropriations. I would much prefer a monthly maximum number of hours rather than a weekly maximum.
So based on the reporting that you had provided, when I did my quick math based on Chris Medwood's time, the 9 months that she worked for us, she did average about 88 hours a month. There were a couple months where she exceeded the 100 hours because of the Kimball trash mailing, which took a little bit more time, but on average, she was about 88 hours per month. So,
and that's reasonable. That's quite under 30 a week.
and having said that, that would provide up to that 100 hours a month for the work sessions. And I equated 5 hours based on the attendance of the work session and then the composition of the minutes. It was just an average in my mind. If you have an hour meeting, you're going to have at least an hour of minute or an hour and a half of minute.
Well, I'd rather see it broken down if that's the case than to what your 20 hours are, and then an additional up to 8 hours a month for work session. Break it out, but don't just give a flat ballpark 30 hours a week. I don't think there's enough control or maintenance on that. I mean, if that's the case, then I'll just do it myself. That, I'm not looking at increasing 40 hours to potential 40 hours to a budget that we're already seeing significant strain on.
Well, and
just because of work session minutes.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Jen is proctoring and has the ability to do the minutes if we ask her. I assume, I haven't spoken to her, but if we're paying her to proctor and she's sitting here for a 3-hour work session, wouldn't it be smarter just for her to do the minutes at the same time?
I don't mind Jen doing the minutes for the work session. I don't really want to go into that specifically.
Well, it's just, we're paying her to do the proctoring. To me, it just makes sense, but
all I ask for is a recording secretary. I don't really care how you guys accomplish that task for the work session.
Well, and I don't know because I've never done it before, so that's why I told Suzanne if we could have it, because really I feel like, Martha, because you've been in that situation, and Suzanne knows because it's to assist her. So it's really, I feel like I wanted you two to have the open dialogue so we could make the decision of
we have gone back and forth quite a bit on it. I mean, prior to the work sessions ceasing, Suzanne did the minutes.
She did.
So now, that's another thing. Now Suzanne doesn't have to do the minutes because of, her other demands for time. So that's why I said,
Yeah, and we had actually hired a person to do the work session minutes along with the zoning board minutes.
when was that?
Carol Chisholm.
Oh, that's right, Carol. She's, yeah.
And part of that reason is that with the influx of zoning demands, it was just another thing that just was occupying a lot of my time. So that was the decision made to,
Is that person still doing it?
no.
She passed away.
Our recording secretary that we currently have for zoning boards is just doing the zoning board.
Can we enlist them to do that?
She
doesn't have
works
time during the
full-time.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, if Jen is interested, if she's proctoring the work sessions and is interested, I have no issue if that's something that interests her. In that
Because
context,
to your point, it's just a much more broad minute, right? It's not
it's
as
simple.
detailed.
I mean, it's there. We're just giving a brief overview of the discussion.
Right.
And you're not coming to any decisions, you're just discussing something. So the requirement isn't there for it to be specific or cross all the T's and dot all the I's on it.
Well, the position's listed, so I would think, in my opinion, to just leave it as is and see what type of candidates we have come in and kind of play it by ear and finagle it and see, maybe someone comes in with recording secretary experience and it won't take them 5 hours. Maybe it takes them 2.
Right.
Just kind of see what type of candidates come forward.
See, the reason I thought and it's fine if there's someone that's interested and has the time, but I thought something like the recording secretary, when I had brought it up, was that it is perfect for someone who works during the day and can just access whether they're audios or the Zoom things and just sit there at night and give a brief thing. That's why I kind of said, hey, it'd be perfect for someone who might want to learn about the township and have an extra $100 in their pocket. It's not going to be
And just do it from
full-time
home.
job
Work
and
from
do it
home.
from home. That's what was in my mind when I even made the request.
Yeah, we're not recording the work session.
Well, we would if I weren't here. I'm going to be on vacation in 2 weeks. So I'm going to ask you guys to record the work session so I can do the minutes absent anything happening with you guys finding someone. So otherwise, one of you guys can sit there and assemble the minutes or I'm happy to sit and listen to the tape when I come back.
So when we're looking at this recording secretary position, it's specific to work sessions, or do you want them at the trustee meetings too? Just so that we know when interview time comes.
If someone would like to do that, but it's not included in this job description of the administrative assistant, if there's someone that can work into that, that's fine. That has experience.
I think it was included in what we posted. That's why I'm asking. So when the candidates come in for interviewing, what is your preference? Do you want them to try to be the zoning or the recording secretary
My main
for all meetings,
concern-
or just the work sessions?
What I specifically asked for when the work sessions were decided to occur was someone to do the work sessions.
Okay.
Because otherwise I'm going to be doing 4 meeting minutes a month. If in fact you find that person and they're good at what they do, and I mean, I'm a pain in the ass, all right? I want those minutes to be a certain way, and I'm not the easiest
You're
person.
thorough.
I'm not the easiest person to work with, and I'll admit that. So I'm not going to hand something over
That's not
if
true.
I'm not comfortable with the product. But if that person exists and they want to take on more, then by all means, they are more than welcome to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Do you have a preference, if you continue, trustee Astral, or do you want Martha to go? Oh, you have one more thing?
We received our annual email for our portage on rental, and I did forward it to trustee Swedick to review to help assist with the education of some of our township business. I don't know if you were going to speak to that today or.
I was going to, is that a recurring expense, Martha? Can we just sign off on that?
No, you have to approve it. It's a contract. So it's an annual contract. So you just approve it at a meeting.
Okay.
And then it becomes a reoccurring contracted service expense.
Throughout the year.
Mhm.
Okay.
When is it, when do we look to start that?
April 1st.
Okay.
They deliver and then they pick up November 15th. That's on.
I'm just wondering for Buzzard Day. Buzzard Day is March 20th, but I don't even know if that's going to happen.
We can change it to March 1st if the trustees wanted to agree to that.
When we did, when they came in for the reservation, the chamber, they're renting that old fire station bay, correct?
Correct.
Because there's a restroom there, so it's not necessary.
We also received an email from the Soil and Water, and they are requesting to display their educational materials, which includes display of pamphlets and a little check mark if you reviewed the materials. It's kind of part of their process, if you will, to determine how many people they're trying to assist with educating the community with soil and water information. They also have a banner. I believe trustee Asher's forwarding the email down the table there. Is that something that you would want to have on display here? We don't have a whole lot of foot traffic coming in and out of the office. With COVID, we are trying to minimize the amount of paperwork that's left out for the public to handle.
I, to be quite frank, don't feel it's necessary. I've been working with Kelly and actually her predecessor for the last 2 years. We've done the electronic newsletter, and they provide me quarterly updates that I send out, and I email her with the number of people that are on our list at that time when the email goes out to meet our requirements of education. That's just my opinion.
It's a good point, and I also think that it's not a huge display. We know that moving forward for the next couple of months, we're going to be having more people coming in here. You know, we don't even know what to expect for tonight, how crowded it's going to be in here. And with the steering committees that are going to be meeting here, you know, for the next 3 or 4 months, I just think that this could take up valuable space that we may need for our residents to conduct business.
You know me, I don't like pamphlets. We just cleaned up the whole pamphlet.
I heard
area.
Suzanne just told me. She's
I
like,
mean,
there
I don't know where you
display.
put that. If you put it
Nobody
in
even
here,
takes
it's,
them. Yeah, that's the
that's the
thing.
thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, you could probably best suited by the restroom and the water thing, because that's where everybody goes.
Okay, so I think we're going to pass on that. Do you want me to email them, or did you want to do it?
There's no place in the front.
Okay.
Next thing on my item list, return phones from Jim Burns and Chris Colita. What are we doing with those phones? And have they been deactivated and taken off?
Yes,
And what do we typically do with?
Gov deals. That's what Jim did the last time. I don't know where we can donate, and anybody aware of any senior groups or any?
I think in Medina that they had that battered women's thing. I think they take.
Do they? Because we
believe
can donate them as long as they have no use to the township
If no one objects, I can reach out and ask.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you for volunteering.
Okay, I am working on the meeting calendar, and just as an FYI, the special meetings to hold the work sessions will be included in the calendar and will act as the notice to the public, area news, and any distribution as the notice for the special meetings. When there is another special meeting that needs to be planned, like the comprehensive plan meetings, that will be a separate email. But for our work sessions that will be held on the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month, that will now be included in the calendar.
Thank you.
I will plan to post the agenda on the website and public distribution sometime on Monday. So if we could get the drafted agenda going by Friday and Monday morning, respond with as much as you possibly can, and I will post it as a draft or a final on the website. Tuesdays, I can always add in if there's something that crops up from Monday to Tuesday, because I do not print it until, for the meetings till Tuesday afternoon, but I will not repost any changes. Are you okay with that?
I have no problem with that. The only thing that I would recommend is Jack Kapansky from the Gazette is on your email distribution list, and he's no longer with the Gazette.
Oh, he's not? Okay. I don't get any kickback, so I don't know who's working and who's not. And then department heads, I believe, are doing a very good job providing their packet materials to the trustees.
They are doing a fantastic job.
And I really like that change because it means I don't have to spend additional time putting together that packet material. All right, moving on, cemeteries. I will have a deed for the trustees to sign at the Tuesday meeting. A lot was purchased by the Metzger family for the cremation section. Received payment for another footer that will have 5 pending for installation by our service department when the weather breaks in April. I will be working with Jack to update the Department of Commerce paperwork to put him on as the trustee for the cemetery to provide the rights to sell interments for our township, unless the chairman or someone else wants to be on that.
Are you available for those types of endeavors?
What does
Is that, can you explain what that is?
So the Department of Commerce requires the township to have 2 contact people. Usually it's the sexton and one of the trustees. In the past, it was Ray Schulte and then Jim Burns, and because Jack is the liaison to cemeteries, I had asked him if he would be willing to take on that role.
Is that specific to collection of money or anything?
Yeah,
That's what I
it's
thought.
right for him to sell a cemetery lot.
Okay.
So basically, yeah, it's a signator?
Yeah, in my absence, you would be the other person.
Is there ability to put all 3 trustees on
I can check.
or even 2?
Yeah,
Because I would recommend at least 2 so that if for some reason Jack's not available and you need a signature, you have it.
I'll check.
Does it need a trustee signature or a sexton or a trustee?
Either or. Doesn't
See, she's
require
already a
both.
second.
And she's here all the time.
I'm going into real estate.
All right, thank you for that. The 3rd and 4th quarter reports are complete, so they will be on the agenda. And I would ask respectively if Mr. Spadek would present the reports. They're pretty simple, it's just outlining sales, burials, and order requests. Okay, we've been receiving several requests for a list of fees that we would charge for footers for the standard sizes that come in. I would be willing to work with the service department to make sure that we're calculating the dimensions correctly and to come up with just a generic list. And then if it's a unique situation, the monument companies would have to provide a sketch for actual calculation of that. Do you have any objections of me looking into that?
No, ma'am.
No.
Okay. Do you have time to look into that?
Yeah, I've already kind of started
Okay.
doing that, so.
She's gonna need a bigger plate. Keeps getting,
And then I was reviewing the organizational minutes, and there was conversation about the non-resident language for our sales of cemetery lots. And Martha, you had said that you were going to put together some language for that.
Yeah, and I sat down to try and do that. And then I think that that really needs, to be honest, as I sat there and tried to develop that language, in my mind, I kind of put on my Brian Richter hat and I heard Brian's words in my head saying, you are violating your organizational minutes by even doing what we've done in the past by the case-by-case basis, because these folks aren't residents. So to be honest, to develop that language, I'm not comfortable doing it because, though not intentional, I think we have violated our own motion by even doing it. Because residency qualifications, that's the word. What are the qualifications? We don't have those defined. Where we are, how does someone qualify as a resident when their address is not here? And that's, again, beyond my scope. I'm just saying these are the things I thought of as I was trying to come up with something that would kind of answer the question and assign a value to that. But Jack, do you follow what I'm saying?
I do. I'm looking for the language.
Because I can't quite say what defines residency absent an address. I don't know. So, sorry, I'm tossing that one back over because I'm glad you brought it up because I at one point I had thought to bring it up and I was going to bring it up to Jack actually.
So if you have the trustee organizational meeting minutes in front of you, I believe it's roughly on page 5 of 10.
I don't have them because our website is not mobile friendly.
It says the trustees shall determine residency qualifications, something like upon application. And that's
Resident
what's
qualifications to be determined by the trustees at the time of purchase. Is what
Yeah,
it says.
purchase, I'm sorry. And that's my question. How are we defining residency qualifications?
Well, the couple that we've done have been case by case, and they've been residents and they have other, there were specific circumstances
Right,
where
there
like
was
they
always
had
a
bought a
nexus
plot
to-
from somebody. Yeah.
But
Somebody
they
else's
weren't-
family.
And again, I'm not arguing because I get it. I'm just saying I'm not qualified to give you guys something that will hold up. That's all I'm saying.
Back in March of 2016, when it became effective that we would no longer sell to non-residents or having non-resident rate, the resolution was to allow for sale of
The same exact thing.
former resident, if they met the qualifications.
Well, same
Pretty general.
thing.
Determined by the trustees at the time of purchase.
And once again, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that I am not comfortable
No, that's fine.
developing language.
Absolutely. I
That's-
respect that.
That is my concern. I just don't want to create more of a issue or potential problem than I would rather it go to legal counsel.
I don't know that that motion identifies just residents being in there. It identifies the resident rate.
And
What
that-
rate
well,
you'll charge
but-
for a resident.
Yeah, well, this I got no issue with. It's assigning a different value to something. That's what you guys, that's what I offered to do, was write something so that we could capture additional revenue in this case, or, assign a different value to the sale of a lot. That's what I'm not comfortable doing, because I don't exactly know how to do it
That's fine.
based on our current language.
Do you want to talk to Brian Richter about this, Jack, and see if he can give us some language to potentially
Or is it
use?
something we don't even want to, is it something we want to let it
But
remain?
you have a concern, because I'll reach out to him, because you have a concern that by allowing a non-resident in there violates it as well, correct? Or no?
Since we don't have residency qualifications defined. That, and it never has been a problem, but as this, you start thinking about, if not this, then that. And then you start thinking that it's just, it's just not something I'm comfortable with presenting to you guys without, I would prefer it be reviewed by the prosecutor's office. Maybe there's another township that has exactly the same situation, and there's an example that can be built upon. And
I see your
But
point.
couldn't we
because-
amend it in these?
Yes, but we had talked about a non-resident rate.
That's
rate,
what I'm saying, can't we speak to that in the resolution?
and that again is beyond what I can prepare and
Yeah.
make
Okay.
sure it's
All right. I'll talk
ironclad.
We'll talk
So that's
to-
fair. That's
Do you
fine.
guys
Fair.
understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
I just don't want to create a bigger.
Because we don't have a
concern.
definition of what resident
Yes.
qualification is, how can we determine whether someone comes in and gets a resident rate
Yes.
versus a non-resident?
And it may be as simple as that. It may be further defining
Yeah.
and coming up with a policy. That is where you may get some guidance from the prosecutor's office and or other townships that may have a similar thing.
Yeah, and he may say you don't need a policy, you can just put X, Y, and Z wording in the
Then that-
organizational minutes, however he
Yeah,
recommends, but I would definitely, to Martha's point, it's really not her place to kind of,
Sure.
she can put a motion together on the fly, let me tell you, but this.
and like I said, I'm thinking, and then I just started thinking, and I'm like, oh man, that's becoming
No,
of
I see your
concern.
point,
The
Yeah.
ghost of Christmas future.
Yes, exactly. So sorry. Otherwise, I did attempt it. I did.
Very good. So Jack, will you reach out to the
I will.
prosecutor and you have his contact information?
I will get it.
Okay, I can get it to you.
Any more trouble?
Anything else, Suzanne?
That's it, thank you.
All right, trustee Ashford, we'll go to you.
Wait, before she leaves. Martha, you had asked for information on what we're doing for cemeteries in 22.
Yeah.
So I know that she was working on getting some info for together. I also talked to Mike Bahari, who's not able to be here today, because I guess they used some salt this weekend. I don't know. And he's going to take a look at some of the stuff out there, but he doesn't think they're going to go beyond the scope of anything that Suzanne had already talked about.
Yeah, that's what you'll see. That's what I planned for
Okay.
in the, thank you though. Thank you for following up on that, both of you.
The appropriations. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Suzanne stole a lot of my thunder. I had a lot of that stuff written down to talk about. So the only other two things that I had on my list was, did we want to discuss a little bit further what was briefly discussed at the end of the meeting last week in terms of recording the meetings, having audio recordings? I'm not sure if you both saw the email I sent you with the example of Avon, their website, how that looks.
I saw it. I think we need a full-time person to navigate that. And I think based on the conversation that we had at the end of that meeting, we kind of wanted to get our website in place first before we would navigate that part of it. And one of the things that I was actually going to ask the two of you to do is if you would each get a quote from someone about a website, just so we can work concurrently. I have one gentleman that I'll be meeting with this week who has specifically dealt with government agencies. He's redoing Wadsworth's website right now. And, with a website like ours, there's so many layers with meeting minutes, recordings, calendars, things of that nature that we definitely want to get somebody who's qualified to do government entities. So I just thought that way, if we each brought 3 quotes to the table, we could kind of look at what they brought and see what their strengths and weaknesses are and determine from there. But I'd like to move on it right away so that we can make a decision about the recordings.
So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
when you reach out, what specifically did you ask for?
I asked for a complete overhaul of our website, making sure that it was friendly, phone friendly for mobile, and making sure that the things that are most important to Hinckley Township residents are on there right away. So those things would be meeting minutes, zoning, and our calendar.
Okay, and then, because one of the things that I would like to ask is that anything that the departments are doing, maybe the police post his report or the chief, that they're able to do that themselves, make it user-friendly for updating by those, so it doesn't put any additional burden on the admin part
That's
of it.
exactly the way we look to do it.
Okay,
Yeah,
So-
there would be a training that would probably be involved for department heads to be able to do that, and whoever they would seem fit. I would imagine Sergeant Schroll would be involved and Jen would be involved, so that it's more than just the department heads that could potentially do that.
And how did you find the company that you're meeting with?
Through a person that highly recommended them.
Okay.
So folks, I think what you need to do, because this isn't going to be an inexpensive venture, not that it will meet the competitive bidding threshold, but what you should do is you should develop a request for service.
I have one that
And
I
then
look forward to them.
You will share that. Okay, just wanted to make sure that everybody was
So that it-
apples to
yeah,
apples.
the quotes
Okay.
are apples to apples. Yep.
Well, so we're going to need that actually before we
Yeah,
move
Yes,
forward.
but I just
Fine.
wanted to make sure that you guys were on board to each bring someone to the table so that we could have that conversation.
That was actually the second thing that I had that I wanted to talk about is, you said last week and you just said again that you're going to be meeting with someone. Is it possible that we can have them meet during work sessions so we can all be part of those meetings?
Sure. I think probably our best bet is to get our 3 companies together and have them come in
Sure.
at one time.
Sure. Yeah.
I have a question about that,
Yes.
if I may. I think it's long overdue, number one. And I think it's a great idea to have all the departments piggyback off of the township website for ease of seeing everything in the township from police to fire. But I would ask that I have some input into what the police page looks like
For sure.
and what all that's going to entail, because we have been looking at different police department websites because ours is obviously very old and antiquated, and there's some really good ones out there and great ideas about how they market the department, how they can get reports online, how they can reach the chief, the whole thing, accident reports from the state, how they can submit written statements to us online.
well, even if you decide that you want to maintain your own, that's as simple as linking it to this one.
Yeah, and I don't know that I want to do that.
Yeah.
I have no problem being, I think it's a great idea to be part of the, all of us together. That's my opinion. But I just want some input on how that's going to be designed and what it's going to look like.
Well, and I do like the idea of linking, we talked about, having the ability to link it to different things because it keeps it interactive and it's just going to drive people back to the website. To what Jack had said last week at the meeting is it goes full circle. It's driving them back to the website because this will not be an inexpensive venture. So if we want to get our money's worth out of it. We want to have people going directly to that website and linking it to a bunch of different things, I think is a really good idea.
Well, and then some of, just like we do with other facets of paying bills, whatever portion of that new web design and build looks like that's for the police department, then obviously I pay for that. Would I be correct about that, Martha?
Well, that was what I was just going to say, is if you had your own website and linked it to the Hinckley Township website, that would probably better clarify
I think
appropriations.
From a fiscal standpoint, it makes much more sense of all working with one person for all of us versus I'm going out and finding my web design, you're finding your web design, and everybody's doing something different. I think from
And you'll have the continuity also, so they'll, yeah.
we're only calling one person if we need something goes wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe this makes sense.
So I would think the initial build would be general fund. And then if did your scope of services indicate that there would be maintenance, ongoing
Yes.
maintenance?
Mhm.
All right. And that, so basically whoever would get the contract would be responsible for the entire thing, right?
Correct.
Okay. Then at that point, I would think that they'd probably be either submitting hours or an overall monthly fee. And then at that point, we could certainly appropriate it in some way, a fair percentage across the board to each department
Okay.
or fund.
I think last time I researched how many hits our website got, that was back in 2017, and based on the information that we gathered through Brian, it was that almost 90% of people came to it and left it almost immediately. So
It's so engaging though. I mean,
yeah, it definitely needs some love.
Without question.
But yes, we will work collectively.
Sounds good.
So as soon as I get that scope of work, I will forward it to you guys.
thank you.
That's all I have. And so your scope of work, are you going to break it down into different things? So we'll give you guys the option of just the design build, if the maintenance fee is too high, or did you break it out like that per se? Give you guys some flexibility?
What I'll do is this, I'll get the scope of work and we can look at it at the next meeting. It may not
Okay.
actually be this meeting, it might be the following work session. And then we can look at it collectively and determine.
You know where I'm
if it's-
coming
yeah.
from on it, just
So we'll
in
all have the
case
same
something
scope.
isn't all lumped together. It's à la carte. You guys
Let's
can,
do that. That way there's no
Okay.
question about the scope of work. We all have different things to contribute to that. Sorry, too.
or you
And we
guys,
probably
I
want to
mean,
know what
that-
their
I mean, if you
goals
want
are as
access
well.
to crash reports and things like that, that may be an added,
Very well. Could be.
there may be some added fees, maybe you also need some,
It's just a matter of setting up links. Like I would like the community to have the ability to submit police reports to us. You know,
Records requests.
absolutely,
Yeah.
things like that.
Mhm.
So, there's some work involved to set all that up.
maybe you guys invite your 3 vendors in to just discuss the needs at a work session to start with. And then you further define the scope of services and then gives them, that's where I've seen the problems come in, is see one person interprets one thing one way and they don't realize, and not to anyone's fault, but just everybody on the same page is, you're going to get a more accurate fee.
I think that
For
goes
service.
back to why we want the work session, so that everybody's on the same page. So I think that's,
Yeah,
Good
but I
idea.
mean, even your vendors that
Right,
come in to
right.
present, they're gonna hear all the same things in the different departments and be able to give you guys really accurate pricing
right.
so you can make a decision.
Well, do you want me to start with a scope that we can look at and tentatively decide these are the things that we'd like to see?
Yes.
And then we can go out and each bring our own vendor in?
I think that's the best place to start.
Okay.
And what I mentioned, you guys should probably send over what your goals are, what you'd like to see the abilities be through this.
Sure.
Very good. It will be an endeavor, but it's much needed. Okay, anything else, trustee Astral?
That is all I have.
Is all she has. Trustee Sweattick.
Like I said, Mike is waiting for a salt delivery, so he's not here. We had the road meeting the other day. After that, I talked with Mike again and he's given a recommendation to go with option 2, which is those 2 lanes. And
I brought it out so that we have it referenced if we need to.
just because I think he had a discussion with you as well, Martha, about funding. If we went with option 3, that would exhaust all of our money, and I don't think we can do that right now.
We can't do option 3, period.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the appropriated amount for roads?
I'll get it, I'll get into it more in detail, but I appropriated roughly 1.1 million.
So that third option is $1,181,028. So it's.
And what was option 2?
It is $837,605.
It's still a big chunk of money, but the underlying issues up there are what's driving into his recommendation that be done this year. And we do have the funding for it right now. Plus, it leaves us enough to do some other work if we need.
I would support that because I agree with his concerns. We don't know what's under that road.
They have a pretty good idea, and it's not good.
The idea is there's nothing underneath that road. So we don't know if we're going to need more funds to beef that up.
So there's enough to do this option 2 right now.
Absolutely, there's enough. But to your point and to Mike's point, that leaves us some leeway if we do encumber additional costs with option 2, and we can do other projects.
Correct.
And it's going to give us a little bit of savings because the more we do, the lesser it costs. Isn't that what they said last week?
You're going to have, they're going to be mobilized and for that one portion of the project rather than breaking it up into smaller and have to come back next year and complete that.
Right.
I think you guys got the notice from ODOT.
Yeah.
I talked with Mike about that. He said the only concerns that we really have is what they set up as the detour, and they'll provide that information before they execute. So he'll be looking for that to get that to you. We had some queries from residents about residential snow plowing since we don't have the project anymore. Mike was saying, and Monique as well, maybe adding independent plowing information to the website. I don't know that you can do that for a handful, and then the others, I would just say, if we do put anything on there, is to say, if you're looking for residential plowing, you can read, there's other places available in the community. And I don't know that we can put any specifics out there. Martha's shaking her head no.
Yeah, I don't like to do things like that. I don't like to back a specific company or even on Facebook recommend a plumber because we can't mention all of them. And if we miss one, then we get in trouble with the one that we missed. And, I received a ton of phone calls on Martin Luther King Day, specifically asking that who would you recommend? And I just tell them to Google people in the area or snowplow in the area. And I think that there's definitely enough snowplow people in our vicinity that could handle a lot of those jobs.
Why don't you refer them to the Chamber of Commerce? There is a link on the website.
I have done that.
That would be not you. I mean, you're doing your best.
A snowplow person at the chamber.
That's the folks who should be promoting.
Yeah.
If you want to talk to them about adding a list of potential plow drivers and then have the link on our website to chamber.
Yeah.
What if you, instead of recommending people, if we encourage residents who do plow to let it, you can do
stay out of it.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope to start recommending any one person.
It's that's chamber's role.
Okay. Okay.
You've learned a lot, haven't you?
Yes, ma'am. And I'm still learning.
No good deed goes unpunished. That is my motto.
Yeah, because we even had talked about a farmer's market that I wanted to put together in 2017. And we just, as trustees, cannot get involved in any type of vendor, anything. It's just a bad decision.
Just to back up 1 second to that road meeting, I don't know if Suzanne, you knew that we talked with them and they're planning on coming to the March 15 trustee meeting for a presentation. You already have that?
I heard
Okay,
Angie call me.
okay.
So with that, you're wanting to include the folks that will be subjected to the road work on Valley Brook. And in the past, either Mike or service department or Trustee Burns would send a letter to those Valley Brook residents.
Whoa.
I think we're
Hold
10
the
steps ahead of
presses.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're coming to present the options to the board. Is that the case? Okay, yeah.
Okay.
No resolution's been made, so.
But you could make a motion at the next meeting if this is the option that everyone is
Agreed upon.
agreed to today, to move forward with option number 2. And then we would swing right into that meeting with the residents.
Well,
But I
so
think
what's
there's a bid
Dan and Angie
process
coming in
first.
for then?
Well, they were just going to present that.
I think the initial thought was they were going to present that publicly
Okay,
So a special guest at the beginning.
at the beginning of the meeting, yeah.
but you're gonna make your decision beforehand.
I mean, if you want to.
I'm just asking. I'm just asking.
I think we probably would, yes. So maybe that negates that.
Yes, it does.
That's,
That's what we're
I guess that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, so if we make a motion at the next meeting to move forward with option number 2, there would be no reason for them to come in, but to talk to the residents that once everything was in place to move forward with that option.
I mean, they could certainly talk about the project itself and the scope of it,
Then at that point,
but
to Suzanne's comment, do we invite those people who would be involved in option 2 to come in and
I would think it's premature because that project isn't even probably gonna start till July, August.
I think that it would negate the March meeting. We would have the bids go out, come back. Once we approve bids, if we approve bids, we would have the resident meeting. And
Yeah.
generally what that has been is the special meeting right before a regular trustee meeting that allows for those residents to hear specifics from.
You might ask Dan too, and Angie. I don't know what bidding is like right now for concrete.
We did ask them.
Okay, because you may want to bid out 1 and 2, just in case 2 comes in crazy, absolutely crazy.
bid it as 2?
Well, I'm saying you might want to bid option, ask Dan.
1 and 2.
Yeah, because $1 to a donut, there's going to be change orders on that 800 grand project.
Right.
They're going to find that it's worse than they thought underneath, and then you're going to have to add more soil stabilization. That's going to increase the price, depending on what the bids come in at. Dan they tend to bid higher at the engineer's office, but if the recent projects are any example of that, they're either close to or over even. I mean, they're getting far closer than they used to be with the environment right now.
I did ask him
Infrastructure
about
money's coming through. Projects are going to be out of the roof because that money is starting to funnel into municipal projects.
ARP funds, you mean? For the
No,
infrastructure?
no, the huge infrastructure bill
Oh, okay.
that Congress passed. So I'm feeling, Tom, what do you think? You are a mayor. I mean, I don't think I'm off the mark here.
I would agree with you.
I mean, projects, my son works for Independence Excavating and they got projects going on into years now, where a year ago they were dry. And that is a direct result of Congress approving that huge infrastructure bill.
we did specifically ask him about time frame and about cost analysis and if there was even availability to do these projects. And he said that they're knocking on his door. They're ready to do them now. And he spoke to the cost and didn't say that it was exorbitantly higher than it.
I don't think we
has
know
been.
yet, to be honest.
But
It's-
just to get an idea,
Yeah.
I did ask him. But I agree. We could ask for bids on 1 and 2 separately so that we can determine.
I mean, ask Dan what his thoughts are, because I would hate to not have a default for that Brookside area if the bids are,
Let's see if we can bid both.
And we'll talk with him.
yeah, we did a version 1 and a version 2. We've done that in the past where we've scaled it down. And if we can do the big part, we do it. If not, we default to the smaller.
Okay.
Very good.
I wanted to ask you guys what you want to do as far as updating the employee manual, that policy manual.
I am working on it. I'm in the midst of a records request that's longer than my leg. I've
Okay.
got about 8 hours into right now. But yeah, I've got the employee manual on my computer. It's on my laptop right now. It's up, that I've been intermittently working on. And then I was going to give it to you guys to see if you had any additional changes you wanted
You don't
to make
know?
to it.
Okay.
Yes, the comprehensive plan.
Nikki's records request for the comprehensive plan applications? Is that your records request?
It wasn't just applications.
No, is that the one you're talking about though? All right, so you're documenting the time frame on that and everything? All right.
Yep. And I had to spend time with the prosecutor's office on it as well, so. The
Is
day
there any
waiting
kind
for
of
that.
target date
Okay.
that you are looking for that update by?
Me?
Mhm.
Well, I
3
gave it
years
to Jim
ago?
and Becky when I left in 2017.
Yeah, 4 years
So
ago?
the fact that it's on my laptop and I'm actually working on it is a
All
good
right.
sign.
We will get that done for you, Martha. And is
So
that,
maybe in 2 weeks?
Oh, no, it's fine as long as you guys get to a point where you're discussing it and have something cemented down. I will have to say though, Jim was well-intentioned. Much of what is been updated is not very practical for the entire township personnel, and that perhaps you may consider a separate service department policy manual, much like the fire department has and the police department have for the service department. And it was much too specific, targeted toward service in that. I don't think the original policy manual was bad as far as it applied to the general personnel. There were a few areas that needed to be updated that had discussions in the past, but generally for the 1, 2, 3 employees that it covered at the time, it was adequate. It was when the service union was no longer a union that it became an issue. And it might be helpful to provide you guys with the service union, the last service union contract, because that may be a very good place to begin it if you'd like to do
I
a
was gonna
service
say,
specific.
Why don't you look at that document and see if that's something that you think should be separated, because in the past it was because of the union? Or do you feel
or
that
perhaps we put a service section in it?
well, police and fire
It's-
have their own.
Yeah, it's basically the same document, but with addendums to it, sections in it that are particular to that department.
Maybe take a look at the non-union contract and determine if you feel that they're so similar they don't need to be separated, or if you think they should be, based on the
The
information.
non-union manual, you said?
Yeah, the non-union.
With the union
and with the union
service contract.
Yeah.
And then maybe look at Jim's notes, because I think you have that version I
I do.
gave you, so you can kind of see. I'll leave it into your hands to make that determination, and come to us with your thoughts on it.
Okay.
If you're comfortable with that.
Okay, that is all I have.
Okay. I have a couple things. I just wanted to follow up with you. Are you going to look at the Maple Hill Cemetery wall to see if that needs to be sealed? Are you working with Mike on that?
I did not, the wall you're talking about, or the roadway?
Yes. Wall, we just installed that wall, and one of the things we had talked about was if it needed to be sealed with the road salt coming, we don't want it to deteriorate if it needs to be sealed.
Will do.
And then you are handling the Gibson property,
Correct.
okay? And you got my documents in my email for the QUAD.
Yeah, actually, I did them electronically.
Okay, perfect. And I sent you an email too that included the poles, the telephone poles. Are you working on that, or do you?
I have not started
Okay.
that yet, no.
Okay, just curious to see if that was something you wanted to handle. Because I said, this might be a good idea to work on. It takes a long time. It took me a solid year to get half a pole out from in front of the fire station.
A half a pole?
It was just a half a pole.
So
So good
I'm on
luck,
schedule for
sir.
3 total? Okay.
She's really sorry to be passing that off to you.
And then I didn't know if you guys wanted to pursue a bid for the east wall of the old fire station bay. That was something that we had attempted, and it came in much higher than we had anticipated, so we had to reject the bid. I didn't know if that was something you wanted to consider.
Can I add to that conversation?
Yes.
Thank you for bringing that up, because that was actually on my list.
Good.
So
Great
after, yeah. So last month, and I just got the Columbia gas bill, opened it this morning. Suzanne gave it to me yesterday. And 2 months of $1,000, well, I'm gonna say $973 in heating. And, much higher than last year because it's been colder. And I would, estimate that this next one will be even higher. So that being said, we also had a very generous donation, I'm gonna say 3 years ago for the old fire department bay to do improvements on that. And we still have $67,090.35 in that.
Could you give that number again, please?
$67,090.35.
So that's the reason I brought it up, because I don't want that money sitting idle, and we are losing a lot of efficiency out of that section of the old fire station. So it would make sense for us to at least put this out to bid again and start that process so that the donor sees that we're working to utilize the funds as he had asked us and maintain some type of efficiency there. The other benefit is that we have a lot of events that are happening there, more so than we ever thought. And that is an additional egress that's needed for fire emergency. If we have a large party or something in there, we need that additional exit. Because if there was an electric fire and those bay doors couldn't open, people would be stuck in there except for the one exit out.
How much was the bids that came in that were really high?
They
Well,
were in the upper 50. There's a story there that I
There's-
could certainly tell you at a later date, but they ranged between the upper 50s to the mid 60s. The plans are drawn. The architect has not sent us his final bill. Did you talk to Jim any of this? Okay. So basically it's just a matter of maybe speaking to the architect again, checking on the climate, and just putting it out for competitive bidding again. And we have examples of how that was done. The original,
Brian Richter has already approved.
yeah, Brian's
so
approved
We
everything.
just need to change the dates on it and get it out. Anything over $50,000 is considered a competitive bid. So if we send out the bid and it comes in above that $50,000 mark and we didn't do it competitively, we have to nix the whole thing. We don't want to be in that situation. So that's why I'm stressing, and Mark is stressing competitive.
Well, we've done it both ways. Let's just leave it at that, okay? So,
So you want to rebid it? Is that what you want?
Yes.
we have to rebid it.
So I wanted to see if you
We
were
don't
willing
have to,
look
I'm
into
saying,
that.
we want to though,
Yes.
because we're wasting money.
And I think it's good again for same reasons as the road work. You want to line people up while they're looking for work.
And we have the monies that were donated for that purpose. So what are your thoughts? Do we want to work on a bid for the east wall?
Is there anything that we want to change in that spec? No?
Not really.
All right, I'm okay with going on for it then.
I'm going to put it in your lap. It's under your name right here on my post-it.
She's right next to me, you know.
Well, she's got stuff too. I'm getting to that.
No, we can just adjourn. So let me ask you this. If we do this, because we're talking about now a savings because of the energy costs, is this not something we have to worry about with the west wall? It's only the east wall?
Well, no, this is because
It's a phase. project.
yeah,
Okay.
so this is to replace the fire bay doors.
Okay.
Okay, so those doors are old and they weren't efficient to begin with. And then the seals are gone. So you have a tremendous amount of air coming in there. But here's what's the most very important part of this. And Ray and I had worked on this with Brian Richter, in 2019, 2019.
It was 2019.
2020, it might have been before Ray passed away. But anyway, to rebuild a meeting room in a township, you have to get it voter approved past a threshold, an amount. And we talked with Brian Richter a number of times, and this is not to basically create a meeting room or create a meeting space in any way. This is because of the energy efficiency that we wouldn't need voter approval if we replace the bay doors, but that would be ridiculous because it's no longer a fire station. So these were the conversations that we worked through with Brian is that this is a necessity and we're not going to replace something bad with something bad. We're going to just seal it up and do that. And so we got the go ahead from him that this is not something that would require voter approval and fall into that statute of remodeling. And so that's why we have to be really specific and really narrow in the scope of this project. And they feel the trustees have done that.
And it's a man door, a double man door with windows and then another small single man door. So all of the bay doors will be completely gone off the front section. That's the second phase of the project that was voted on back in 2017. The first phase was the curb that you see out front now where they got rid of the driveway. Yeah, because of the inefficiencies there with water runoff and whatnot.
I'm fine to open up the bids again to rebid it.
And all the
I would
work
support
really is
that.
done. I'm not just giving it to you. Jim has all of the documents, or
okay.
Martha has the documents.
Well, no, Jim, that's my next question. Jim hasn't gotten me any of that yet. Anybody talk to Jim about his?
I can ask.
Can
about
you?
it.
Because he told me he was getting it in order to me and I don't care. I just need them.
Yes. But
So he just got to drop them off.
Prosecutor has gone through it. All we have to do is change the dates on it to allow for a new bid, but I would still send it to the prosecutor just in case.
And we'll need to verify the engineer's estimate from the architect's estimate. That's likely in addition to the dates, that is likely something that will just need to be updated or verified that it's not going to change.
So those were my 4 items for you, Trustee Smithers.
Thank you. May I have another?
She's such a mom. She's got the checklist going.
Well, I feel like there's just been a bunch that we've been juggling, so I kind of want to bring you guys into the stream of things, and this is the best way to do that.
Okay. The layered approach.
Trustee Asherle, we had talked briefly about the Zoom renewal,
Yes.
which I forwarded to you. That is effective February 1st. I did email them and ask them for a quote on that renewal. Since your administration, I'm going to kind of hand that off to you.
Okay.
It's got to be done, like I said, by February 1st. I have no background in that. Jim Burns was handling it previously. The only way that I've been brought into the stream of things, as I kind of mentioned to you guys earlier, is that when we were doing the transition, we didn't have your emails yet. So he transitioned it to me. And it really should be transitioned to all of us if we can, or someone who's going to be here for the next 4 years, not me.
It's on your credit card, isn't it?
It is.
So it really should be transitioned to Suzanne, because all you guys need to do is make a motion to approve the contract. Okay?
Transition to
Do that
Suzanne.
February 1st. Transition to Suzanne, because then Suzanne can print me out the receipt for the credit card charge. That's the only thing that needs to be,
They
that's the
said
only.
there's a quote involved, so that's why I requested that. So that-
Yeah, well, you'll have to approve the quote
right,
in
before
the renewed.
before February 1st.
So hopefully I'll have that by Tuesday and that can go on my agenda for Tuesday.
Hopefully.
And Jim didn't have like a contact person, just the generic who you emailed today.
He's been doing a lot through BNT, which is the company that we used that put in this whole system.
Okay.
And I can get you the contact for BNT. I'll write it down. And then my other item for you is that I'm going to ask that you coordinate Jen as the proctor for the work sessions. She happened to email me because she was on vacation last week when we decided when our work sessions would be.
Mm-hmm.
And she happened to email me and ask if we needed assistance this morning. And I said, yes, please, because then I can give my full focus to what's happening here. So I'll have you coordinate that since you're fire and admin. She's at the fire department, but obviously this is more administrative.
Okay, so you want me to coordinate with her just the words so that she's aware of the, okay.
Yeah.
To proctor,
So maybe-
to proctor the.
Okay,
All
so
the meetings and work sessions.
I send her like a monthly, like,
Perfect.
okay.
It's just any way that you guys determine is best.
I will
You put
touch base
together a
with her
Google
today.
Calendar, however you think is best for that. I wanted to let you know that, to Suzanne's point, we were going to look at the fee structure for zoning. So thank you for mentioning that. And we have the positions out on the website for the assistant / secretary. And then we have out the BZA and the zoning commission, which there was an error in because we put that it was one position for the BZA and 2 positions for the zoning commission, and actually it's swapped. So we will update that. But I wanted to let you know before we update that I received the resignation of Bill Budd, who is a member of the BZA. He will be able to serve until the end of February so that we can transition. And he had given me some very specific things that he thinks we need on the BZA. And I wrote them down. He requested somebody with a legal background, someone who is very good at analytics, and someone who's very good at negotiating skills. And so an idea occurred to me, and I figured I would present it to you and see what you think. We can obviously change the posting to 3 BZA positions. And I did recommend Bill Schaefer to you. He is currently the alternate for the BZA. He was our zoning inspector. He's been on that board as an alternate for roughly 7 years. So he knows the BZA, right? He's got the experience. But when I heard this list from Bill Budd, my mind immediately went to Lindsay Roble, who's currently an alternate on the zoning commission. And is she best suited there? Or would she be better suited as a member of the BZA? And I'm just throwing it out at you because I think that she brings all of these things to any board that she serves on. She's fantastic. I advocated for her very hard when it came time for deciding for her to be an alternate on the zoning commission. And I think that she brings the wealth of knowledge and experience that the BZA could use. Bill said that it's very difficult to sit in these chairs as a BZA against legal teams without a lawyer on the board. And she is just that.
Mhm.
So just food for thought. We will go ahead and change that position. If it's okay with you, at the next meeting, I'll make a motion to add the third position to the BZA. But I just wanted to present you with that idea.
Have you spoken to her to
I
see if
have
she's
not.
interested?
I wanted to see what
Okay.
your thoughts were before I made any type of contact.
I don't disagree with that. I think it's ultimately her decision, if that's something that she'd be interested in. But then I also think that, we already have them, it's posted. So let's bring in whoever's qualified and see who we feel is the best bet. But I would say start with the conversation with her. I agree with your point.
Because she can actually come in and interview for the BCA.
Yeah, if she's interested.
If she's interested, but I wanted to just throw it at you guys and see
Right.
what you thought about me approaching her before I did do that.
No, that's fine. I'd like to hear what she has to say.
Okay, very good. I will reach out to her and see what she thinks about the BCA.
Those were good feedback though from Bill.
Yeah, great. And we were very sad to see him go. He's been on the board a tremendous amount of time. And he's going to be traveling more than usual and to see his children and grandchildren, and just thought, you know what, this is something he
Good
would
for
have
him.
to step away from.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I just talked to him at length at that last BZA meeting.
yeah,
So
he's a terrific guy.
Mhm.
So I think that's all I have, except that I wanted to just briefly see what your thoughts were on replacing our front door, which we talked about, the keypad, the keyless entry, but really that front door needs to be completely replaced. And it doesn't have to be done today. We don't even have to have discussion today, but I just want to plant the seed. It's an old door. There's a big draft that comes in. And it's something that Ray Schulte had talked about doing back in 2020. So just food for thought on that. If we're going to do a keyless entry, maybe it's time to just replace the door as well. And ideally, I'd love to have a handicap button there because we have the ramp if someone's in a wheelchair, but then once they get in front of that door to open it, I'm sure it's difficult to maneuver in a wheelchair.
That's a good point.
Well, the thing with that would be if you have controlled access. You know what I'm saying, Chief, if you have a swipe card.
But just a citizen wouldn't have a swipe card.
She's saying,
for when the town's
when
open.
that building is open. So
Yeah, so if we just have a veteran that comes up in a wheelchair or someone who's, elderly or whatnot, it's very difficult for them to get in that door. We have a beautiful ramp for them, but to actually access the door, pull it open, they'd have to back up. It's a probably difficult task. And that's all I have. Do you have any questions for me before I turn over to Martha?
I do not think
Okay.
so. Wait, this is just my thought. If these guys don't want to hang around, if they're done, we don't have anything for them.
They can go.
Well, we have the permanent appropriations.
That they're going to come. We're going to
Just
talk
stay where you're at.
grab a cup of coffee.
All right. So you guys have seen them, right? Anything? I'll work for you. Anybody need a copy?
Yes,
I do.
please.
3 there. Need a copy? Let's see, I got some extras. Here you go. I think there's one for Mariah. You want a copy of this boring piece of paper?
She's not a resident.
Oh, where'd she go? Oh, how'd she slip out?
Mr. Pearl, do you?
Yeah, Suzanne's got some extras.
That should be documented. No interest.
So what you got in front of you are my recommendations for the permanent appropriations. And then a little differently this year, I added 3 columns on the right that shows you the actual expenditures for the past 3 years. And I thought this was good to represent just where costs are increasing and where they may be decreasing and why I may have moved things around a little bit. If you see a column that's blank, it means that that fund line was probably added in the year that it begins. And likewise, if you see a field populated and not in future years, that's because that fund was no longer used or there was no money expended out of that fund. And then areas that I'm going to remove a fund line, I have marked it as removed. Areas where I've added a fund line, you'll see new there. And that just kind of just gives you an idea of what might be added and what might be taken away. So for example, if you look in the first page and you go about 9 up from the bottom, 1,110,360 contracted services, you can see that I've added that line. And that's basically for services like our lighthouse contract for the backup and things like that. I've added that. And why I do that is just I like to give you guys an idea of specific expenditures. So for example, last year, rather than lumping life, dental, vision, and the HRA deductible all under medical hospitalization, I added 4 additional fund lines for each department that expends those funds so that we can get an idea of what we're actually paying into that specifically. And where that comes into play is a lot of times when you're having wage discussions or you're having union discussions and you say, well, what is that benefit to the employee? What is the cost of the township? Well, by representing that and quantifying it, you can see exactly what you're talking about specifically rather than generalizing. And, and again, you can look at administrative staffs, administrator, you can look at the salaries and the police, fire and service. And I guess that's which you probably know already, but I'm not a generalist. I like to talk specific numbers. And hopefully this, by including those past year's expenditures, it gives you an idea
It's very helpful.
of where we're at with things.
Thank you for that, the historical perspective. And that's similar to what I did with the wages for the organizational minutes, was going back to see how they have historically changed and in what increments. That's very helpful. Thank you, Martha. I know that took probably some time to do. One thing I will point, there's a couple things I'll point out. I moved Mike Bahari, who's always been, salary has come out of Road and Bridge. I have moved him to the gas tax line, where the other service employees, and that's 2021. So I left a little bit in 2031 for salaries, but I've moved the majority of it. So you'll see a big jump. You'll see the 2022 appropriation is $220,000, whereas last year it was $130,000. I did that for a couple reasons. One is pending the buffoons in Columbus not changing the gas tax and reducing it. We've been bringing in, I'll tell them they're buffoons. Only good thing they did was raise the gas tax. So as long as that stays, then I'd rather more money for salaries come out of there. And I have increased the motor vehicle line in 2031 Road and Bridge to allow for a plow truck that Mike has indicated that he'll be asking the trustees for, because we can only take that type of equipment out of Road and Bridge. We can't take that out of anywhere else. This reflects the
continuous rising costs of hospitalization. I've appropriated 1 million in police salaries this year.
Golly.
Hopefully we won't meet that, but we may. And again, increase their hospitalization by an additional 50,000 for this coming year. The other thing I added, and I did talk to Jess about this last night, is based on preliminary discussions regarding the fire department, I did not want to get caught flat-footed if the trustees would at some point decide to add full-time staffing. So I have added a number of fund lines there and appropriated monies. If it doesn't happen, it's no worry. It just gets rolled over. It gets carried over into the next year. But if in fact changes were made, I didn't want to have to figure out how I was going to cover hospitalization, life, vision, all the full-time employee benefits, in addition to retirement contributions, which I'm assuming would be OPF, a bunch of letters that no longer exist. So I did have to plan for that in this. It's not saying it's going to happen. It just says if in fact it does, we're prepared for that. And other than that, I don't think there's any significant changes or I don't know.
What is the drug law enforcement line for if we really aren't using it?
I talked to Chief Sedner about that. We have to have that. We're mandated to have that with our the fees we get from the court, Medina County Court.
Okay.
So Chief is going to use it for, we have to use it for drug education or some kind of drug programming. So he's going to work with the DARE folks and do that.
As the sheriff finds a replacement for the retired DARE officer from the school system, I didn't feel it was appropriate for me to spend Hinckley Township dollars for something that my wife was involved in.
Yeah.
So hence that is sat unused for the last 3.5 years.
Thank
So
you.
hopefully we will have a resolution to that by Friday.
All right.
I'm hoping.
But they could
So,
never replace her.
The other one is law enforcement trust. And that is contraband. That's an account that has to be set up for the sale of contraband. And we really haven't had any funds come into that. So we still appropriate for it just in case, but we haven't had to delve into that one. So feel free to let me know any questions, any concerns, and we'll go from there on it.
Very good.
But otherwise, I'm going to ask for a resolution approving the permanent appropriations. Any questions?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay, so now I'm going to hand this down. We did get the amended certificate for January, which allowed us to create our permanent appropriations. And this is more just for just a little education more than anything else. But what you'll notice is one thing is that we are $16.90 short of the 10 million mark, which is pretty significant for us. But if you turn that sheet over, you're gonna see, oh, I'm sorry, Chief. You guys, I was running in from the copier, but I'll make sure you guys have a electronic copy. So you'll look at this second sheet. of it, which is page 2. And what the auditor has done is he's taken our June projections and our carryover and modified it slightly with what they're getting from the state as far as property tax revenue, et cetera. And they give us the total that we're allowed to spend in any one of those funds. So if you look on your second page of the permanent appropriation draft, and I'll just do one example for you, and then you'll be able to follow the rest.
Sure.
But if you look to Fund 2011 and you see the total appropriations, it's 45,000, okay? Now look over onto page 2 of the Amendment 1 from the auditor. Look under 2011 MVL.
Over here.
All we're able to spend is 47,000. So you will see every single permanent appropriation total is going to be under. Some of them are a little closer than others, but they're all going to be under that total. We are mandated by the auditor in law. We can't exceed those totals ever. And I'm very conservative with them because, again, these are just estimates. These are estimated revenue from the auditor. This is the only solid thing here is our carryover. That's the only number that actually is a real number. Everything else is a best guess. So I don't know if that kind of explains how the appropriations are determined and what thought goes into them. But that's what our guidance is. And then you'll look at the second column, which is taxes. And that's what we bring in from that's the estimated revenue from property taxes on this in accordance with our inside millage and our levies. And our other sources are going to be things like grants, it could be fees, it could be miscellaneous revenue. In the case of fire, it's contracts for fire services, which is our EMS billing. And I'd be happy to again, sit down, answer any questions at any time.
I have a question. 'Cause
Okay.
I am not understanding something correctly, obviously.
Sorry.
So on page 2, where it says road and bridge,
Mm-hmm.
the total is $605,330.52.
Mm-hmm.
And you were saying that total column, we cannot by law go over.
Mm-hmm.
So,
601 here.
no,
605.
no, that's not my question.
Oh, sorry.
No, but I like how you're trying to finish my sentences. All right. 2 weeks into it, and you're trying to finish my sentences, Jack.
It's kind of like if you watch the Beatles, Let It Be on Disney Plus, you're going to see a lot of similar.
Okay.
You, Martha.
Did you watch it? The Beatles.
It's like a cheap Disney.
You're
No.
more than 2 weeks in, by the way.
You're too young.
I missed the first week.
That's not my fault.
I missed the first week, so I'm not counting
But you
it.
were still here.
Let's let
Okay.
this poor girl finish her question.
All right. Thank you, Martha.
I already did.
So we are talking. Can I finish? For the road project that we're talking about, we have
Oh, that's a good question.
option 2 is $837,000.
Okay, so if you look on the general fund, I'm sorry, very good question.
Thank you.
So if you look on the back page of contracted services, in the middle of the general fund, it's fund line 1,330,360, contracted services.
Okay.
You're going to see the magic number, $1.1 million. All the concrete work, or the majority of the concrete work, and a fair share on the paving, depending on how the numbers work out, is coming out of the general fund. And some parts of contracted services come out of road and bridge, which is 2031. But if we just relied on 2031 to do our road work, we would not ever get any road work done.
Okay.
So that is the line there. And so if you scroll to the right on that, you can see,
Differentiation.
look what we spent in 2021. That's it. There was $1 million appropriated in 2021. That's what got spent. There was $1 million appropriated, or I'm going to say maybe 975 in 2020. Look what we spent. I want you to spend it.
Yeah, and we will try to, but we have to remember too that with COVID, everything was delayed. Even
There were some other reasons, but
and county was behind, wasn't able to do any of our bids for us last year.
they did that. Well, yes, that is a factor, but that's
But we
not the
intend to
reason.
spend all of it this year.
Because Bethany Lane was a disaster. So that's that.
Very
Good
good.
question, though.
Thank you, Martha.
I'm not done.
I won't make that mistake.
Okay.
So I talked to Suzanne, and I'd like the trustees to determine a pay schedule for the zoning boards. I don't care if it's annual. I don't care if it's biannual. That's about the least I would consider, would recommend considering. But I think what I'd like to do is, prior to whatever pay schedule you have them on, I'm going to submit to them a direct deposit form. And if it's biannual, they'll get a direct deposit form a month in advance of their payment, and they'll put their direct deposit information on it. And then an annual, they'll just verify their deposit information hasn't changed, because it has been it's been quite a difficult task reissuing Bill Schaefer's paycheck because of the rollover from
Right.
year to year, and it's a payroll warrant. And I just would like to avoid that. It was a very rare occurrence, but I would truly like to avoid any potential for that.
What has it
happening.
been historically?
Annual.
It's been annual, but
Mr.
Well-
Schaefer had his check eaten by the mail, so when he brought it in, it couldn't be cashed because the endorsements weren't on the check anymore.
and I'd already
And it-
rolled over,
it was
I'd already been working in 2 years, so you can't reissue a payroll check while you're transferring over into a new year. And then when you're into the new year, you can't reissue a payroll check without messing up the Medicare and the federal tax.
So if it's historically been annual, what benefits you?
Well, part of it is a benefit that I'm assuming it may be a little simpler for the board and commission members to look back over 6 months rather than a year of their participation in training. And I mean, I don't care. At most 14 people. I really don't care if I do it half a year or at the end of the year.
Okay.
Either way. But the issue is with getting the direct deposit information, because it's not a biweekly payroll. Someone may forget to notify me if their checking information would change. And this way we can just verify it up to date if it changes.
So if it's biannual, you can kind of get ahead of it, because if there was an issue the first time around, then you can stay ahead of it for the second time.
Yeah. And with the direct deposit, I'm not going to have to worry about losing checks or destroyed checks. And I just got a check returned from Home Depot that was mailed out on the 21st of December. The mail is just really unpredictable, I guess, is a good way to say
Is there
it.
anybody who doesn't do direct deposit?
The zoning.
Just the
They don't,
zoning?
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Yes.
saying.
They're issued a check at the end of the year.
But the reason being is that if someone gives me at the beginning of the year their direct deposit, I'm only paying them once a year. There's a good chance they could have changed accounts by then, and the money's not going to go, and we'll be kind of in the same little predicament on that. Or they just have to come in and pick up their check. I don't care what it is. I'm just going to avoid mailing payroll checks at the end of the year to anyone.
I imagine that direct deposit wouldn't be an issue for any of them. But to your point, they can also pick up the checks here, maybe at their last meeting at the end of the year.
Well, and I've done that to some way, leaving them, but then you still don't know who's going to show up and who's
Right.
not, and they're left. I can't remember. Did I leave them with you, a couple of them, and you gave them to Chris, or did we mail them all? I don't even remember. You know, there's pros and cons of everything, but I think the thing being is that,
Well, electronic would bounce back, wouldn't it, if it didn't go?
yeah, and all I do is,
I would think for the sake of consistency, just make everybody direct deposit, no?
yeah, but they have to make sure their deposit information is up to date with me, you know, and I think maybe cutting it off on the last meeting of November, and then if we can get into the habit of just carrying over December into the new year. I think it might be easier for Suzanne to do it that way.
Would it be easier for you to do it that way?
Yes and no. I mean, this year we tried to accommodate the last BZA meeting, which was on the 23rd. They got paid for the 8th, but then they rolled over the 23rd into this year because of the timing on payroll. So either way, as long as they're getting their.
Well, I think it makes sense to do the direct deposit. It's a cost savings too. And if we do it twice a year, every 6 months, then we would hope that they would notify us if they're checking information.
Oh, I'm going to have them sign off on it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to see it and have to sign off on it before any checks are issued.
I would support that.
So, you know what, I may just send Marcus and Joe just an email letting them know if that's all right. I don't know that there's any pay schedule and organizational minutes that technically needs to be
There isn't.
motioned. And then the final thing is that I apologize, but I cannot make the 17th. And you know, you had asked me at one point if I was open to a Saturday, and the Saturdays are fine too. It doesn't matter. The 12th or the 19th, either one of those would be fine. And you can check with your committee members tonight and
Okay.
see what dates work, but I do apologize.
No worries. 12th or the 19th, I will speak with them tonight.
And then lastly, I swear to God, Jess had asked me a question, and again, this is more for education than anything else. But I got too many copies here. Just so you guys have an idea of the reports that I send out. You can throw those down that way. And that way you guys can share that one and share this one. And if there's any questions, and so before every meeting, as soon as the bills are done, you guys get a series of 4 reports. One is the appropriation status, which is attached to your permanent appropriations. And what that does is, if you ever have a question as to how much money is in the account or where is a fund in this point of time, all you need to do is look at that. And same with the chiefs, and same with you and zoning, et cetera, where your wages are. You can look at that and you can see exactly where that fund is at this point in time. So for, example, if we just go to, if we go to fire, all right, because it's a whole page almost, which is page 7. And you go up to salaries, and this is there's an as of date always at the top, but you can always assume as soon as the checks are cut, this is going to represent the payroll and the bill paying.
You gave us.
I don't have a separate.
No, I'm saying the appropriation
Oh.
status is attached to your permanent appropriation sheet, the larger packet.
I was gonna say, you gave us revenue.
Page
That's
7.
not the appropriation.
You guys can check where it is in that point in time. It's going to give you the year-to-date expenditures, which is third column from the right. It's going to give you how much money is remaining. Page 7, Jack, on
Not
that.
even the right damn thing.
Here. It's behind these appropriations.
Yeah, I ran everything through the copier at the
Oh, I
same
was
time.
actually counting the pages. Okay.
So it's going to give you what the balance is, what you have remaining, and then it's going to show you the percentage of what is remaining in that fund. So these are all year ends because I just copied the December 31st end of year. But that's a quick reference at any given point in time. Whereas you can go into a meeting the meeting that night and you can say, I have a big equipment purchase, Martha. I think I'm going to need you to move some money, or we ran into a problem and we're going to have to reallocate. And we can, have that real-time communication and that you can understand why this report's being sent to you. Another question that always comes up is, what does reserve for encumbrance, the first column out of there, means? That means that we've set aside funds the prior year. So a really good example of that is if you go to 2031, which is the Road and Bridge Fund, and that would be page 4. You're going to see that down by well, actually, it's the current reserve for encumbrance, which is the 4th column. You're going to look under motor vehicles and you're going to say $56,835. What's that for? Well, that's for the mini excavator that Mike's waiting on. We have a purchase order for that. We have to show it on the books. Once we pay for that, that's going to disappear. And so sometimes you might see that our year-to-date expenditures have exceeded our final appropriation, but that's only because we've expended last year's funds in the form of a purchase order. Does that make sense? So that's just, but at any time you see something that you have a question about, just ask. But that's why I send you that report. The other one is the payment schedule that lists the payments. I send you guys that report because I often get asked the question, so-and-so's looking for money. Did we pay it? Well, first thing, go look at that. Okay, you can say before you need to call me, not that I mind you calling me, but what I'm going to tell you is I sent you a payment report. See if your bill's on there or your fee is on there. Is it paid? Okay. Now, if you ask me, is it outstanding or cashed yet? Certainly I can go in the bank account and look at that. And then fund status just shows what your current fund balance is on that. And then if you look at the revenue status that I gave you, which is the smaller page, you can see what our estimated revenue is, and that would be our final budget. And that's defined by the auditor's office. Again, you go back to your certificate of amended resources, and you'll see that the sum should be somewhere near about what he's allocated us to spend. So if we're looking at the 1,000, the first line, the auditor told us last year that we could, or the beginning of last year, that he estimated we were going to bring in $5 $509,000 in general property tax. We're actually running a little higher. I never budget for it, but it affects our carryover. The actual revenue we brought in from property taxes in inside millage for that line was $531,609. But we are dictated by what the auditor says. Revenue is the actual amount that comes in, and then the budget balance is what we've gone in excess of, which is going to show as a negative balance in most cases. If we're short, it's going to show as a positive. And how much we've received and how much we've gone over is the percentage. So very briefly, what that brings me to is the conversation about the fee schedule that Suzanne and I had yesterday, which is, if you look on page 3, that is 2181. And we budgeted 35,000. That's what the auditor said we were going to bring in. We brought in 40,246. So we brought in a little more than we budgeted. But our expenditures, and I'm not going to go into this, but I'm going to email you guys whatever you want. Our expenditures in zoning for the year exceeded our revenue on that. So that's where I'm saying we either have to raise our fees a little bit to accommodate that, or somehow we have to address the disparity in whatever it is. Make sense? And there's so many reports on that system that if you ever have a question, there's usually a report that will answer it. So that's just an idea of why I send you guys those reports and the department heads.
I appreciate them. I think
I'll get those
helpful.
reports. So for example, last year in zoning, and I'll just toss this down and you can look at it. Our revenues were $40,896. Our expenditures, $69,202.99. So
we're going to look at the fee schedule, but another thing that the last board had talked about, and I had kind of touched base on at the last meeting, was whether we need 2 alternates for both boards.
that's going to have a very minimal impact on
But it's a variable.
on that. I would say it's more so,
That's all salary, Martha?
these are your total expenditures, but zoning is primarily the only thing that, in addition, and these are just a number of departments I printed out. So your main things are postage, legal ads, salaries, a little gasoline for Tom, not much, $15 a month maybe, very, very slight. And a hospital, there's some hospitalization coming out of there. OPERS, and you can see all that because it's all on your appropriation status. You can see how much came out of each of those lines, and that's really a case for everybody to look at theirs. Cemetery, the revenue status shows exactly where money came in too. So you can refer to your revenue status and you can see primarily where did monies come into the zoning department. And you can see that it's primarily fees. So that just kind of explains how everything really does interconnect.
There's only one of these.
And how you can look at it specifically rather than generalizing your needs or your wants. I guess that's the kind of the crux of my presentation. Make sense?
Yes.
And that goes to staffing and expenditures in every single department. We all want, but what is evidenced by the numbers we see on the paper.
I'm looking through all.
And what
trying to
we're bringing
find
in.
this, and
And that's the world. We're not making any new product here.
Oh. Between every page.
Very good. Any questions from the audience?
I have one short question that might lead to another question for the trustees. The question is to the fire chief. Is there a safe occupancy level for this room? Number of people?
Yes, there is. That is set by I believe it's set by the county building department. That's on it. And it's based on tables, chairs, is it set up for tables and chairs and everything else like that is typically who sets that standard from my recollection.
Is it a maximum?
Yes, it's set by a maximum.
But yet it varies depending on
The configuration, yes. Typically that's how it's set up.
what might it be for this stuff?
I have no clue. They based on, my uncle was an architect and I had a conversation about this at his previous work, and it's based on each human takes up like 2.5, 3 foot or something like that.
And then the chairs take up this and that. So I am not sure what the max or maximum occupancy is for this room. That would be something that would go, like I said, I believe it's the building department that does that. I'll talk to, it comes from us, but they're the ones that do the mathematical equations typically for a smaller community like us.
Okay, and then my follow-up question is to the trustees.
Later.
How many people do you expect for a meeting like tonight?
I have no idea.
And what if you very full?
I had no doubt on that
We'll
one.
have to wait in the hall until it's their turn to speak. We're gonna give 3-minute increments to speak. And after that point, they'll have to allow the others to come in. We talked about doing it at the church, actually had reserved the church, and the more that we discussed it, we thought that the virtual was so important to so many people that we couldn't compromise it by having it at the church. We could not bring the virtual to the church.
I guess I have another short question. And being on the steering committee, will they be active tonight?
Yes, but not very active. The intent tonight is to listen to the public. That's the intent.
How is our setup going to be? Are we going to be sitting up here and then just have the chairs,
The
have that
committee will be
table?
up here.
The committee will be up here?
And they're probably, I need to talk to Suzanne about how the room will be set up. I have not determined that as of yet. But the committee will be up here. And all of our citizens are encouraged to come in and participate at 6:30 tonight.
And that Jen is going to do the minutes for that. And so because of the way it was advertised, the trustees are holding a special meeting. Those will have to be prepared in accordance with regular meeting minutes and approved.
Okay.
Just so.
We can do that. Yeah, and speaking with the prosecutor's office, because all 3 trustees were going to be here tonight, it was recommended that we advertise it as a trustee special meeting. So we will just do our best.
And if the 11 members of the steering committee are all show up and are seated, will that also include the alternates?
Yes.
That's like half the
The
room there.
alternates may head that way, but yeah, I mean, we've had the garbage meetings and a lot of meetings in here that have accommodated a fair amount of people.
And I'm sorry, I have one other added question. If a member doesn't show up, are you going to automatically put an alternate there? Or are the alternates in case a member retires or resigns?
An alternate is there to serve as a committee member if a committee member cannot attend, just like a traditional zoning board. This evening will be a committee meeting but the full intent is to listen to the public. So the interaction will be minimal. I anticipate that most of the board members will just sit and listen.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments before we close?
Who's leading the meeting?
I am.
Okay, let's just make sure since Arthur wasn't here, you had.
Yes, I will be here this evening at 6:30. All right, so at this time, I would like to adjourn at 1:55 PM. Can I have a second?
Well, before we do that, I would be remiss if I didn't mention what a weekend it was for the guys in service. And I know there's always complaints everywhere, but I also know what it's like to try and keep up with 1 inch an hour snowfall and a $1.5 million piece of equipment. And we couldn't do that at the airport. And these guys, I think they did a fantastic job this weekend. So I just wanted to mention that.
Here, here.
I agree with that 100%.
The weekend before
They did
that.
fantastic.
Second the motion.
Very good. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.